The lamp in Sipho Dlamini's kitchen goes on at 4:47 every morning. Not because he set an alarm, because he stopped sleeping well 12 years ago. He is 53 years old. His father farmed the same 41 hectares. His grandfather cleared it by hand. 3 seasons in a row, the rains came late. The maize came up small, bitter, barely worth the cost of seed. Last season, he cleared $214 after all expenses, for a full year of work. His wife Nality does the accounts in silence. She never says the number out loud anymore. She just folds a paper and puts in the tin box under the bed. His neighbor, Francois Stain, farms 200 meters to the west. Francois drives a new bakkie every 3 years. Sipho's truck is held together by wire and prayer. The sign outside the hole said, Soil Restoration Workshop, free attendance. Sipho came because Nality asked him to. He sat in the back row with his arms folded. The man's name was Tendai Mori. He was 31 years old, and he talked about soil the way some men talk about God. Sipho thought he was selling something. Then Tendai held up a jar of dead soil from a failed farm, and next to it, a jar of soil from the same farm, 18 months later. The second jar was almost black. Sipho uncrossed his arms. He sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes reading that single page. It described a system called regenerative composting, combining animal waste, crop residue, and biochar. The numbers said a hectare could be restored in 14 months. Sipho had heard promises before. He started with $340, everything left in the account that wasn't already owed. He bought 1 second-hand compost drum, a bag of biochar, and a bundle of wire mesh. He left the pH testing kit on the shelf. He'd test with his hands for now. Nality watched him unload and said nothing. That night she asked one question. He said he didn't know. She went to bed. His neighbor Petrus drove up on his quad bike on the 3rd day. He watched for a while. Then he said, Sipho, you're making a very expensive pile of dung. Sipho kept shoveling. Tendai came out on a Saturday and showed him the layering. 1 part brown, 2 parts green, 1 part ash and char. They worked for 6 hours. By evening, the pile had started to warm. Sipho pressed his hand into it and felt it. After 47 days of composting and turning, he worked the first material into half a hectare. Then he planted. 8 days later, he saw green. Just a thread. But it was there. What Sipho was doing has a name, regenerative composting with biochar amendment. And it works because of what is living in the soil. Healthy soil is not dirt. It is an ecosystem. 1 teaspoon of healthy soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. The system uses 3 inputs that cost almost nothing: organic waste, crop residue, and biochar, which is simply would burn slowly without oxygen. Sipho made his biochar in a sealed metal drum for $0 per batch. The compost takes between 40 and 60 days to mature. Then it goes back into the ground. He chose 2 crops for the first season, amaranth and cowpea. Both are drought-tolerant. Both fix nitrogen into the soil, feeding it as they grow. Amaranth sells at $1.20 per kilo at the Mokopane market. Cowpea sells at 85 cents. He divided his 41 hectares into 4 rotating blocks. Each block rests, produces, and feeds the soil in turns. No chemical fertilizer. No herbicide. Just the land talking to itself and being listened to. Sipho was not the first to find this path. In Kerala, women's farming cooperatives have used similar systems since 2009. In the Peruvian Andes, smallholders have cut chemical costs by 60% using biochar. The soil does not belong to any one place, and neither does the solution. It started in the southeast corner of the property. Later, investigators would say an electrical fault in a fence post. Sipho would spend the rest of his life wondering if that was the truth. He fought it for 2 hours alone. Nality called the fire station. They came in 41 minutes. By then, 28 of his 41 hectares were gone. The 12 hectares of amaranth he was set to harvest in 6 days, gone. He stood in the middle of it at sunrise. He did not cry. He just stood there, turning the ash between his fingers. He had $67 in the bank. The next morning, Petrus and his cousin stood at the boundary fence. Sipho heard one of them say, "I told him that ground was cursed." Then one of them laughed. Sipho's hands went into his pockets. That night he told Naledi he thought it was over. She said nothing for a long time. Then she said, "What does the ground look like under where it burned?" He didn't know what she meant. He went out at dawn the next morning and did what Naledi said. He dug down past the ash. The soil beneath was the darkest he had ever touched on his own land. The fire had done something the compost had started. He called Tendai that evening. Tendai went quiet for a moment, then said, "Sipho, wildfire ash is one of the oldest soil amendments in history. Every traditional farming culture on Earth knew this. You just got a terrible gift." Over the next 11 days, they worked the ash directly into the top 15 centimeters of soil across the burned area. They combined it with the saved compost, 340 kilograms of it, still good in the drum. And then Sipho planted again, faster this time, surer. The germination rate on the ash-amended soil was 34% faster than his previous plantings. The plants came up deeper green, with stronger stems. Agricultural researchers from Pretoria University would later confirm what Sipho already knew in his hands. The fire had not destroyed his soil. It had unlocked it. 3 months after the fire, Sipho brought 1,840 kilograms of produce to the Mokopane market. It was the largest single harvest he had ever produced from that land. He sold out by noon. He called Naledi from the parking lot and cried for the first time. 2 years after the fire, Sipho Dlamini employs 7 full-time workers. 3 of them are women from the village who had no farming income before. His annual net revenue is now $34,200, 23 times what he earned the year before the workshop. He now runs a free monthly workshop in the same hall where he once sat in the back row with his arms folded. 11 farmers in the surrounding district have adopted his composting system. He charges them nothing. He says Tendai charge him nothing. His daughter Lerato is 17 now. She tracks their soil pH, rainfall data, and market prices on a tablet. She has told her parents she wants to study agricultural science. Sipho bought her the tablet with the earnings from last month's cowpea harvest. Petrus came to the fence one afternoon in the second year. He stood there for a while. Then he asked Sipho how the soil looked that season. Sipho told him to come and see for himself. Sipho Dlamini never asked for the fire. He did not wish for the struggle, the empty tin box, the laughter at the fence. But he will tell you now that he learned something in the ash that he never could have learned in a good season. Destruction always leaves ground. You do not have to be a farmer to understand this. Every life will burn something down at some point. The question has never been whether the fire will come. The question is always, what will you grow in the ash? If Sipho's story moved you, share it with someone who needs it. Like this video. Subscribe so you never miss any video. See you in the next one.